Alright guys, we're going to go over example number 2 for assignment 93. But before we do that, what I want to just review is when multiplying, okay, just in case we're forgetting this part. When we're multiplying, remember positive times a positive gives us a positive. But also, negative times a negative gives us a positive. What else? Negative times a positive, in this case, gives us a negative. And positive times a negative gives us a negative. Which is what Mr. Teslam did here. If you guys pay attention to it, he had his positive numbers times negative. That gives them a negative answer right there. So now looking at example number 2, if you guys look at example number 2, we are looking for two numbers that when multiplied give us 64, but when we combine them or add them, as Mr. Teslam said, we get a negative 16. So again, just like with assignment 92, I'm going to make my t-chart right here, and this number here is 64, I'm going to put it right here, and negative 16, I'm going to put it on this side. So now the next step is for us to write our combinations, or two numbers, that give us 64 when multiplied, but negative 16 when we combine or add. Now one of the things that would help you when it comes to this part here is using your timetable chart, which is what we give you guys at the class. So now if I'm looking at my timetable chart, I like to start off with my basic number, which in this case is, the first one is number 1, right? And I ask myself, 1 times what gives me 64? Well, 1 times 64 gives me 64. Now remember, positive times a positive gives me a positive answer, but also negative times a negative gives me a positive answer. So using these two same numbers, I'm just going to go negative 1 times negative 64, and that also gives me a positive 64. Now I go to number 2, and on my timetable chart, I look for 64, and notice it is not there. It is not there because this is a 25 by 25. But if you guys have your calculators, you guys can always go 64 divided by 2, and that'll give you an answer. If it's a whole number, that means 2 does go into 64. In this case, your answer is 32. So 2 times 32 also gives me 64. And following the same order that we're doing here, we're going to go negative 2 times negative 32, because that also gives me a positive 64. Then I go to number 3, and I see if 3 goes into 64, so I'm looking for a 64 here. And notice here, we get a 60, 63, and 66. It's not there, so 3 does not go into 64. 4, we go, and there it is, right? And 4 times what gives me 64? 16. So I go ahead and write 4 times 16. Again, following the same order here, I'm going to go negative 4 times negative 16. Go to 5, and notice it's 60, 65. Nope, 5 doesn't go in there. How about 6? Nope. 7? Nope. 8? Yep, there it is. 8 times 8. So I go ahead and write 8 times 8. Again, following the same pattern here, negative 8 times negative 8 as well gives me a positive 64. I go to 9 now. Nope. 10? Nope. 11? Nope. 12? Nope. 13? Nope. 14? Nope. 15? No. 16? Yes. But notice that we already have 16 right here. 4 and 16. So we are done with our list. We can move on to the second part here, which is pretty much figuring out which of these combinations gives me that negative 16 when we combine them or add them. So I'm going to go ahead and start here. 1 plus 64, that gives me 65. As you guys can see, 65 is not negative 16, so this combination is not going to work out for us. I'm going to continue here. Negative 1 minus 64, that gives us negative 65. Notice it's the same number, but one of them is positive and one of them is negative. Again, it does not meet that requirement of giving us that negative 16, so that doesn't work for us. We're going to continue here with 2 plus 32. That gives me 34. Doesn't work out. Negative 2 minus 32 equals negative 34. Notice how the pattern continues here. Same number but with opposite signs. Same number but with opposite signs here. That didn't work out. Let's continue with these. 4 plus 16, that's 20. Doesn't work out. Negative 4 minus 16 equals negative 20. Doesn't work out. But what this does show me, if you guys pay attention to this, is that we're going from a higher number to a lower number, and it's getting very close to a negative 16. So we're close to finding our combination here. And we're going to continue. 8 plus 8 is 16. Now we're getting to the number we want, but this is a positive, this is a negative, so this combination doesn't work out. Let's see if this one works out for us. Negative 8 minus 8 is negative 16. That is the same number as that. We have found it. And what combination was the one that we ended up working out for us? It is that one right there. Negative 8 times negative 8. Factor 1, factor 2. These are the numbers you're going to be putting right here. And again, just to recap, negative 8 times negative 8 does give me a positive 64. And negative 8, when I add it to negative 8, gives me a negative 16. As you guys can see, we found our answer, and we are done with this exam.